Are we ready to tackle this?
Rock and roll. I'm ready.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We have no one registered for public comment this afternoon.
Thank you. Ms. Miller.
Yes, sir.
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Well, good. No cases to reconsider under agenda item 3.
That is correct.
Then let's move to agenda item 4 and consider tax liability cases. I don't think we have any tax cases on docket 3, though. Is that correct?
That's correct. None this week. Fair
housing cases under agenda item 5. I'm not showing any on that list either.
That's correct, sir.
All right, we'll move to agenda item 6. No wage claim cases on docket 3 that have been pulled for additional discussion.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And I just sent you the wage claim short form dissent list.
All right, well, then I move to accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 3.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 3.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 3.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you.
Move to agenda item 7, consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 3. Please proceed when you're ready.
Case number 2517643, Commissioner Demerson.
The AT decision should be modified. The employer established good cause for its non-appearance due to delayed receipt of the hearing notice. Regarding the job separation, the claimant was discharged after she became combative with a member of the management team and her direct supervisor during a coaching exercise. This interaction could have been heard by customers and was observed by a client whose witness statement is in evidence. This statement alone should hold more weight over the claimant's denial in her fact-finding statements, since it came from a disinterested third party, and the claimant's denial is self-serving. Furthermore, the employer testified under oath about the final incident, and the claimant was on final warning for similar behavior. The employer's testimony, coupled with the witness statement and evidence, established that the claimant caused the disruption on the floor, raised her voice, and refused to follow instructions. Thus, the employer met its burden to establish misconduct, and we should modify the AT decision. The employer had good cause for its non-appearance, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision should be affirmed. I do not contest the ruling that the employer had good cause for the non-appearance at the AT1 hearing. On the separation, the claimant was discharged after the employer's client complained that she was involved in an altercation with her supervisor. The claimant has denied any such altercation to the employer and the commission. The employer has not provided firsthand testimony from anyone who witnessed the alleged altercation, nor details about the incident, such as the identity of the supervisor or when the incident occurred. There was also no specific evidence of prior disciplinary action. The employer has not provided sufficient credible or persuasive evidence of wrongdoing by the claimant. Affirm the AT, employer had good cause for the non-appearance at the AT1, no misconduct chargeback.
From the AT, employer established good cause for AT1, no misconduct chargeback.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2597117, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. Due to the pandemic, the claimant was required to work from home to assist with social distancing. The claimant is a victim of domestic violence and ultimately was unable to work from home due to the continued violence. Attempts were made by both parties to continue the working relationship through other arrangements. As documentation shows, when other options became exhausted, the claimant was placed on unpaid leave on May 21st, 2020. This placement onto unpaid leave was urgent, compelling, and necessary, and not undertaken voluntarily by either party. Reverse AT, no misconduct, tax governmental employer, urgent, compelling, and necessary.
The AT decision should be modified. The claimant took a leave of absence for personal reasons when continuing work was available. As none of the exceptions to disqualification apply to the current facts of this case, we should modify the AT decision, voluntary leaving, tax governmental employer, adequate employer response.
The record as described in this case has not provided a sufficient information about separation for a supportable decision to be reached. My vote is to remand.
Ms. Miller, I would agree with the chairman
All right.
to remand.
We will remand the case.
Remove short form, Chair.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2616212, Commissioner Alvarez.
Commission records show the appeal tribunal decision was returned to the commission. There is no evidence the decision was ever provided to the claimant. As such, this case should be reheard to address the timeliness issue. Rehear.
The claimant filed her appeal over a month late, and the decision was mailed to her correct address of record. Furthermore, the claimant knew that the determination had been mailed, and she did not update her address with TWC until after the appeal deadline had passed. Thus, we should dismiss the claimant's appeal to the commission as late and leave the underlying decision in full force and effect.
Rehear.
All right, we'll conduct a rehear and resubmit the case.
Case number 2621113, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant stopped working because her husband was recovering from surgery and is at a greater risk for complications should he contract COVID-19. The claimant has provided medical documentations establishing her husband is at higher risk. Prior to her last day of work, the claimant observed a lack of mask or gloves, and the location she worked at did not have a restroom where one could wash their hands. Since the claimant stopped working because members of her household were at higher risk, she should be qualified for benefits. Reverse AT, no voluntary leaving, no overpayment, void chargeback.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant quit for personal reasons, and none of the exceptions to disqualification apply to the facts of this case. To the extent that the claimant had any complaints about her working environment, she did not request a new assignment prior to quitting. The claimant's resignation was without work-connected good cause, and we should affirm the AT decision. Voluntary leaving, void chargeback, overpayment of $3,304.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, void chargeback, overpayment.
Ms. Miller, short form dissent, and I'd also like to request a memo to PUA eligibility.
Yes, sir, I have your short form dissent and we'll send a memo to investigate PUA eligibility.
Case number 2627335, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The employer has provided only hearsay to support its allegations that the claimant was making false statements. The claimant has denied that she was making false statements and testified under oath that the other person was too afraid to get involved. The claimant was discharged without any warning. The employer also mentioned that the claimant's discussion of her salary led to her discharge, which is a violation of the NLRA by the employer. The evidence in this case fails to establish misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant was discharged for violating the employer's policies concerning disruptions in the workplace. The employer interviewed two managers who reportedly told the employer that it was the claimant who was not being collaborative and regularly tried to bring up another manager in an attempt to talk about issues concerning that manager. The employer also heard from another coworker that she had never heard the manager in question make any comments about the claimant. In addition, an excerpt from the employer's professional conduct policy states that the employees who act unprofessionally will face discipline up to and including termination. As such, the claimant's actions constituted work-connected misconduct. During the AT decision, misconduct.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Case number 2630738, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was the only party to participate in the hearing. The only evidence supporting a finding of misconduct is a separation form indicating that the claimant failed to make an adequate effort to find missing merchandise. The claimant testified that a report denoting the missing merchandise was completed by an office assistant and sent to the claimant, other operational managers, and vendors. The claimant's testimony and documentary evidence shows that the claimant followed the employer's policies regarding the report and the merchandise. There is no evidence that the claimant was responsible for the submission of any accurate report. To the contrary, the claimant, a veteran with 100% disability rating, was told that the employer that they had decided to go into a different direction after he failed an EEOC complaint regarding disability discrimination. The claimant worked for the employer for 18 years, and the greater weight of the evidence does not support a finding of misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The employer's response states that the claimant approved an overage, shortage, and damage of property of product form by inaccurately stating the vendor did not ship. The product was later found on the employer's premises. The employer's response also states that the claimant's actions violated a zero tolerance policy of which the claimant was aware. Accordingly, the claimant mismanaged his position of employment, amounting to misconduct connected with the work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Short form,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Emerson.
thank you.
Case number 2633417, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be modified. The claimant's final absence was due to an unavoidable emergency when his apartment flooded. The claimant's earlier pattern of absences was clearly due to illness. Specifically, the claimant was diagnosed with walking pneumonia. The evidence fails to establish misconduct. Because the majority of the claimant's absences were due to illness, the employer's account should be protected from charge. Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant acknowledged in a fact-finding statement that he had been given previous warnings for tardiness and absenteeism. Nonetheless, the claimant missed 43 days of work per the employer's records. It also does not appear that any of the absences related to medical reasons were the basis of the claimant's discharge. As such, the claimant's continual missing of work after receiving warnings constituted work-connected misconduct. We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, misconduct, no chargeback.
Short form dissent, Ms. Miller?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2633593, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant's hours were substantially reduced due to the employer's reduction in their business. Prior to the pandemic, the claimant was receiving 80 hours of work per month. She saw her hours reduced by 25% to 60 hours per month, and later further reduced to an insignificant amount despite continuing to bid for flights. As such, the claimant had good cause to accept the employer's offer to leave before she was ultimately furloughed at the conclusion of her second leave period. Since the claimant's reduction in hours was due to a reduction in business related to the pandemic, I would support protecting the employer's account due to disaster. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, disaster.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant opted to avail herself of the employer's voluntary leave program instead of continuing to bid on work with the employer. Since the claimant quit in order to pursue the employer's voluntary leave program while work was still available to bid on, her resignation was without work-connected good cause. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
The AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2640244, Commissioner Emerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. The claimant's appeal was voted on timely on a previous docket. As to the job separation, the claimant missed an on-call assignment from the employer because he was away on a personal matter. The employer stated and the claimant confirmed that he did not have managerial approval to be excused from the on-call shift. The employer stated that the claimant's actions warranted immediate discharge since the claimant was part of the repair staff, which was at the front line of the employer's operation. As such, the claimant's actions constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore modify the AT decision, timely claimant appeal, misconduct, no chargeback.
The AT decision should be reversed. On the timeliness issue, the commission has previously voted to deem the claimant's appeal timely. On the separation, the claimant was discharged because he had to leave town and missed a scheduled on-call shift, and because he left work without repairing some equipment. The claimant had to miss the on-call shift because of an urgent family illness. He left work without repairing the equipment with permission from his supervisor. The claimant had only received an informal warning for conduct unrelated to the final incidents. Under the employer's progressive disciplinary policy, employees are subject to discharge after a written warning and final written warning, neither of which had the claimant ever received. Since the employer failed to follow its own disciplinary policy, the claimant was discharged for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Reverse AAT, timely claimant appeal, no misconduct, chargeback.
Reverse the AT, timely claimant appeal, no misconduct, chargeback.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Case number 2640605, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant has consistently provided she was unable to contact the commission due to technical issues. Despite the claimant's statements, her appeals were denied without being provided the opportunity to provide testimony. This case should be reheard to address the timeliness of the claimant's appeal. I ask for rehear.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant failed to allege non-receipt or delayed receipt of the initial determination. Any issue the claimant had with her password are irrelevant to the issue of appealing a determination which was mailed to her. Therefore, because there is no good cause exception to the timeliness rules, and the claimant did not assert any of the recognized exceptions to timeliness, we should modify the AT decision. The claimant filed a delayed appeal, voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Modify the AT, untimely claimant appeal, voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2645353, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. When the claimant's assignment ended, she called the employer's office and requested more work, but nothing was offered to her. She continued to call every day for 2 weeks, but again, was never offered any work. The employer's policy requires employees to come into the office to sign a logbook. However, their office was closed. It's also unclear whether the provisions allowing for a certified letter applied to the claimant. Additionally, while the employer testified that they were allowed employees to send an email, there is no indication that this policy change was communicated to the claimant. In fact, during her 2 weeks of calling the employer, no one ever told the claimant that she needed to take any additional steps to receive more work. Therefore, as the claimant made good faith effort to report for assignment and was not offered additional work, she was laid off due to the lack of work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. The employer's availability policy required the claimant to report back either in person or in writing. During the pandemic, the claimant could have reported her availability by using email. Because the claimant failed to comply with availability policy, she is considered to have quit under section 207.045H of the Act. We should modify the AT decision, voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Modify the AT, no misconduct, void chargeback.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson. Shall I limit that to the separation issue only?
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Case number 2660119, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant was laid off due to the pandemic. When she was asked to return to work, she declined because she has diabetes, which puts her at a higher risk for COVID-19 complications, and she lives with her mother, who is 80 years old. TWC issued guidance stating that claimants would not be disqualified for declining to return to work if they had certain medical issues or had a household member over the age of 65. As a result, as the claimant meets these requirements, she had good cause not to return to work. Reverse the AT, no suitable work disqualifications, no overpayment.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant did not reject an offer of suitable work, no overpayment. In addition, we should send a memo to UIO and CS regarding the claimant's ability and availability for work.
Reverse the AT, no suitable work disqualification, no overpayment.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision, and Commissioner Demerson, I will send that memo.
Thank you.
Case number 2695635, Commissioner Demerson.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. While the parties disagree as to which party initiated the job separation, Job separation was initiated by the claimant when she stopped reporting to work for several days due to personal illness related to pregnancy. Because the job separation was the result of illness, the claimant should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account should be protected from charge under medical separation analysis. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MVI.
Okay, let me get this. The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant was absent from work for multiple days due to personal illness. The employer informed her that she would receive significant pay reduction from $16.65 per hour to $11 per hour and a demotion from her supervisor position if she chose to return to work. The claimant chose to quit rather than accept the demotion and pay reduction. Longstanding commission precedents holds that a reduction in pay or more than 20% gives a claimant good cause connected with the work to resign. The claimant's pay reduction was well over this threshold. The claimant therefore had good cause connected with the work to leave the job. Affirm the AT, no voluntary leaving chargeback.
Affirm the AT, no voluntary leaving chargeback.
Short form.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Demerson.
Thank you.
Chairman, may I interrupt to go back to the previous case? Is that
What-
okay?
Are you referring to case number 2695635?
I am referring to 266-0119.
Okay. Yes, sir. I'm sorry,
So-
Mr. Chairman, if you wanted to respond.
Yeah,
I just wanted to add on Commissioner Demerson's memo, I'd also like to ask for a memo to PUA as well, eligibility.
We will add that third issue to the memo, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
you bet.
Which takes us to case number 2706192. Commissioner Alvarez.
Yes, ma'am. The decision is not supportable. The commission has been informing claimants who were self-employed that they need not search for full-time work if they take steps to reopen their business. The claimant has followed the commission instructions and has been working to transition her business to an online retailer. The claimant should not be held ineligible because the time she has spent attempting to reopen her business has limited the hours she could devote to other employment, especially where the effort she has undertaken is for the purpose of returning full-time work. Reverse the AT, claimant is available to work, no overpayment.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The evidence established that the claimant was not willing to work full-time for an employer. As such, the ineligibility is supportable. As to the overpayment, because the ineligibility is appropriate, the resulting overpayment is also appropriate. Affirm the AT decision. The claimant was not available beginning March 15, 2020, overpayment of $2,266.
Reverse the AT. Claimant is available for no overpayment. MOUI OCS to investigate claimant's receipt of a PPP loan.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, you broke up there. Could you repeat what the memo is for?
To investigate claimant's receipt of a PPP loan.
Okay, PPP loan. Thank you.
Short form.
Short form dissent, Commissioner Demerson. I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that is the last case pulled for additional discussion on docket 3. I did send the short form dissent list for the UI cases on docket 3 earlier in the meeting.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 3.
Chairman, I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 3.
Concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 3.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of agenda items 3 through 7. Let's pause for a few minutes to reset for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Sherry and team.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
right, we're back. Under agenda item 8, staff does not have anything to present under agenda item 8. This will bring us to agenda item 9, discussion consideration of action regarding program year 2020 adult education and literacy grantee performance measures and targets.
Good afternoon. For the record, Adam Leonard, Operational Insight. Excuse me. I'm here today to present targets for the program year 20 adult education grantees in Texas. There are 3 sets of targets that I'm presenting today. The first has to do with participants served by the different types of adult ed programs that are offered. We negotiate these directly with the grantees. The second is the measurable skills gain, where we aligned the targets with those we negotiated with the U.S. Department of Education. And lastly, we have several WIOA-based outcome measures, and the targets are based on the numbers that were included in our legislative appropriation request from October. In going through, there are a couple things I wanted to note for you that are differences from past, and in addition, there was one technical correction that I need to make where we transposed a number. So I'll highlight that one in a moment. The first key is under participants served. In a normal year, we would typically have what we call carry forward targets, where if a grantee did not serve as many people as expected and such, we would kind of roll that forward into the new year. But given that this year was rather a bit different than what we've seen in other years in terms of programs having to move from maybe some partial distance learning to nearly complete distance learning, having to help their students navigate technology challenges, access to good broadband, computers, etc. It just made sense to staff that this year perhaps we go ahead and suspend the carry forward targeting just for this one year, and that we would assumedly reinstitute it next year. While I'm on the participants served, the targets themselves are shown on page 4, but there was a correction for Ysleta ISD in their basic EL Civics target. They had submitted, we had proposed 307, they agreed to 307, and somehow I got 607 in the final document. So this impacts the total number that they would serve across all their programs, and then the system as whole, basically those numbers drop by 300. The second part having to do with measurable skills gain, we set targets based on the 12 educational functioning levels that we negotiate with the Department of Labor, but ultimately the final target that goes to the grantees is essentially a weighted average depending on how many people they serve in each of these population levels. The adjustment that we've recommended here is that in prior years, we had developed a set of 2 sub-targets, one for people served in the first part of the year and the other for people served in the last quarter of the year. The intent was to try to address the fact that in the latter part of the year, it is harder to get a gain. The measure runs July to June, so if you enroll somebody at the beginning of June or middle of May, there's just less time for them to have an achievement. And ultimately, what we really found after a few years of using this is that this seems to have been more confusing than anything else. And so we're recommending that we just go with the straight numbers as negotiated with Department of Education. And if it turns out that an individual grantee has a big shift in their enrollment patterns and they have a larger than expected late year enrollment pattern, we can go back and revisit whether we need to look at their individual targets to account for that. And then lastly, we've got the WIOA exit-based measures, which are listed on page 3 of the handout. And today I'm requesting Commission to approve staff recommendations for PY20 Adult Ed grantee performance measures and the outlined target methodologies. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Answer questions?
None here, Chairman.
None.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve staff's recommendations for program year 2020 AEL grantee performance measures and the outlined target methodologies.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous.
Thank you. And apologies for the jacket. You guys moved on a little quickly and I didn't grab it. The lack of a jacket.
I was only mildly envious since I
Okay, well,
get my own. So.
He's showing us his workout.
it's over here, I promise, but yeah. No.
Well, it's casual, Adam, you know.
Yes. No, you should see casual Adam.
No,
Thank you
I
for your
don't want
time.
to see it. Moving on. Agenda item 10. Staff doesn't have anything to present on agenda item 10. Item 11, this is discussion, consideration, possible action regarding guidance on resource utilization and implementation of services and strategies to efforts in public health emergencies, including those funded with the Department of Labor's disaster dislocated worker grant.
Reagan Miller up for one item under this agenda item.
Great.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Reagan Miller with the Child Care and Early Learning Division. This afternoon, we are seeking your direction on extending and phasing out the temporary enhanced reimbursement rates, which are currently set at 25%. You previously authorized a 25% enhanced reimbursement rate through December 2020. This enhanced rate is intended to assist subsidy childcare providers in covering the higher operating costs they are experiencing during COVID. Today, we are proposing that we extend this temporary enhanced rate and that we also implement a phased out reduction over the next few months, concluding this temporary measure in July 2021. As noted in the discussion paper, subsidy providers will receive the 25% enhanced reimbursement rate in January to cover the entire month of January, and we will continue with the 25% in February and March. Beginning with April, we will implement a 5% reduction each month. So we will pay 20% in April, 15% in May, 10% in June, and concluding with 5% in July. Our initial calculations estimate that approximately $81.5 million would be needed through July 2021. However, final amounts for each board will be based on actual enrollments and actual billing. We're seeking the Commission's direction on approving these funds and authorizing staff to make funds available to the boards to support the actual costs of the enhanced reimbursement rates through July as described. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions?
Thanks, Reagan. None here, Chairman.
Chairman, Reagan, there's been a lot of interest in this particular item, and so I'm glad to see it moving forward.
Yeah, there are a lot of calculations that go into this, and a great deal of time has been spent trying to find the most workable formulas. And so, can't say enough about the time and effort that Reagan and her team's put into this. We appreciate it very much. Do we have a motion here today?
Chairman, I move that we approve the use of approximately $81.5 million of CCDBG CARES Act funds to extend the enhanced reimbursement rates through July 2021, as outlined in the discussion paper, and reimburse the boards based on the actual costs and demonstrated need as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We're unanimous.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
you.
before Reagan leaves, I just wanted to acknowledge her good morning to us, and then she moves quickly from good morning to this afternoon.
Let me tell you something, Commissioner Deverson, that's how her days go over there. It's a flow activity. It goes from morning to night just that fast every day.
Quick, so.
Every day. She clicked off before we were through talking about her. See, that's smart. That was good.
That's all I have under this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Cerna. Let's move to agenda item 12, board nominations.
Hello, good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Shanta Williams with the Workforce Development Division. And before you for consideration are Workforce Board nominations for two areas today. We have Borderplex and Heart of Texas. And staff recommends that all nominees be approved. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments?
None here, Chairman.
Do we have a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the board nominees for Borderplex and Heart of Texas.
I second that motion.
We're unanimous. Staff doesn't have anything to present under agenda item 13. Is there a legislative report today? I'm not sure.
No, sir, there's not.
How about an executive director's report?
No, sir, I have nothing to report out.
And we're just moving through this. Is there any other order, any item of business that should come before the commission?
Not from staff.
Not here, Chairman.
I'm quiet on this end.
All right, well then would we entertain a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Second that motion.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn, and we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Everybody-
See you
have a
guys.
good